2008. Grew up poor. Have to share room with big sis. Room is tiny so we're really bitch about having each other's stuff in our zones. She gets the huge plant leaf thing from IKEA with her allowance that she saved up. Hangs it on the wall between our beds, so it's kind of like a partition. First night it's up, I'm staring up at it from bed. Sort of at an angle, so I'm looking partially underneath it, if that makes sense. It makes a really weird shadow on the ceiling that looks like someone looking over the edge of it. It freaked me out, but I didn't say anything. Would just have gotten laughed at. Every night for like 6 months I look up at this thing and think how weird the shadow is. Can't figure out what it is, seemingly no cause for it. One night I'm looking at it and I almost convince myself I can see eyes. Almost like that reflection animal eyes have but way duller. Actually getting kind of freaked out. Suddenly I hear from my sister's bed. You see it too, right? Both of us flip out and turn on the light. Of course nothing there. Take the leaf down and try to forget about it. Turns out she'd been seeing it for months. Always in the same spot, always looking down at me. At my cottage with my doggo. Phone on airplane mode cause I'm taking it chill. Relaxing by the fireplace, no one around in a 1-mile radius. I do this every month when I want to take some time off from the city and all the turmoil. I've fallen asleep and at 1 a.m. the stationary phone starts ringing. Keep in mind that I have a super solid mind and I wouldn't get freaked out even if Bigfoot was knocking on my front door. I'm like screw that I'm too lazy to pick up. It rings for a minute straight, then it stops for 5 seconds and starts ringing again. I pick it up and immediately exclaim my discomfort. I don't even care who it is. Are you insane calling me at 1 a.m.? I hear incredibly deep breathing in the background and nothing else. I'm basically listening to an autistic fat fuck breathing deeply trying to creep me out or just piss me off. I'm like, yeah, nice hearing from you, asshole. I'm unplugging the phone now, go fuck yourself. That's when I hear the front porch opening, and of course my hound reacts immediately. I promptly investigate. There are indeed footprints of a stranger in my front yard. My dog immediately tracks them down. At a certain point they vanish completely at the middle of my front yard. When I was a teenager, had a cell phone, never used number. A few months older, having number man to get a call at my fright a few times a week from a mock number. Half of the time wrote answer it to only be greeted with what sound like somebody running through woods with their phone either beside them or in pocket. This would last as long as road stay on the phone. After a month I get sick of it and start talking she. As soon as I hear raspy breathing out. First I was happy it was something new, then realized something was up. I keep talking shit, telling whoever was on the line they were going to regret disturbing my 12 a.m. bubble baths with their stupid she. Few seconds later breathing stops and hear water running neat. Start to think whoever this wants me to be afraid. Fuck that, I wilt scared of nobody. Water sounds stop and begin to hear a strange sound, can't place it. Sound gets louder, problem is I'm not only hearing it from the phone new, but from the back pan of the house. Realize it's the back door being locked web. Get the idea to stag laughing on the phone while I grab my dad's 12 gauge. Sounds stop, they stag laughing. Wasn't quite so bothered until they staged laughing, then I felt doom and wanted to panic. Decide fuck it, not going to be a pussy, go upstairs and open the studio's window, that's the only way, on the roof. Get up there quietly and walk towards the backyard. See a tall guy in all black standing in the middle of the backyard with cell phone to his ear laughing. Shortly contemplate shooting them. He hangs up, looks and does nothing but stare. Tell him to fuck off before I kill his silly ass. He points up and yells out, run. He turns around and bolts or the woods behind my house. I stand confused and a few moments later see 2 more people in all black run into the woods. That ferreted me. Told my dad, who was out of town, he knew back that night and set up booby traps everywhere. Calls stop, nothing has happened since. B8. Live across the street from best friend. We talk to each other on walkie-talkies every night around 10 while looking at each other with binoculars. One night talking to him a little than usual, like 11 I think. His parents are out late so we could chat. We are just bullshitting. I drop my binoculars and have to find him again. While I'm looking, I see someone activate their porch light on the side of their house and look around really weirdly. Oh fuck. I tell him I think someone is breaking into his house. Hear glass smash on his side of the walkie. Tell him to hide under his bed and keep his walkie on. Hear loud footsteps and stuff being thrown around. After like 10 minutes, that felt like eternity, the door slams and I see the guy run away from the house. Call the police cause I don't want him to make any noise. Police show up just as his parents show up. Ask my parents about it the next day cause they were friends of his parents. Some prowler had been following kids around the neighborhood and was probably gonna abduct my friend. I'm a hero. So it was around 6 p.m. and I was there along with my co-worker named Jerry. This is a subway in a really weird part of town, so it takes a lot to faze us. We've had bricks thrown through our windows, been robbed, had all sorts of crazy schizo transients pass through, and lots of needles left in the bathrooms. But this shit was bizarre. While we were standing around there, this kid suddenly shows up. He's my blonde hair, must have been like 6 years old or something. But he has no shoes on. And all he does is peek open the door, say hi to us, then starts walking away. Jerry decides to be the one to go out and chase after him while I hold down the counter. 5 minutes or so after that, Jerry comes back and tells me what happened. He says he managed to chase the kid down to the parking lot and asked him a few more things. He didn't respond much outside of yes and no responses. Jerry asked if he was lost, he said no. Jerry asked if his parents were nearby, he said yes. Jerry asked if they knew he was out here, he said no. That was when they were interrupted by a blonde woman approaching the two out of nowhere. When the kid saw her, he suddenly got really freaked out and took off running in the other direction. So the woman stopped and started talking to Jerry, apologizing for everything and saying that she was trying to find his parents when he ran away from them. She then said her husband worked in law enforcement and was calling reinforcements, so we didn't have to worry. Jerry Rustlunda accepted this and came back inside to relay it all to me. He wasn't as suspicious about it as I was, but we moved on for the time. Around 7:30-ish, we're getting ready to close, and the same lady comes back to the store to talk to us. She apologized again for everything that happened and then said that the cops came and found the kids home. What I felt was weird was that we hadn't heard any kind of sirens or anything around this time, but she continued, talking about how it turned out that he lived with his older brother and that he slipped out of the house while his brother was making dinner. She put the quote marks on that part, as if we would know what she meant by that. I can't remember if she actually said anything about his parents or not. But she kept insisting that we shouldn't worry and that everything was okay. Jerry shrugged it all off, but it hasn't rested easy on my mind. Something felt incredibly off about that woman. My imagination runs wild thinking it was a kidnapping or some kind of child trafficking. Our subway was right nod to a Greyhound bus station, and there's been some anti-trafficking operations done from our parking lot. Maybe it's a lot of speculation on my part, but it was really weird. Okay, here's a story. B15. Just got my first personal .22 rifle, all mine, super proud. Little bolt thing, super accurate, loved it. Have a family friend who owns property like 10-min drive from our house. On this property is an old house. Built by homesteaders around 100 years ago, falling apart. Right next to it is a creek and a field. We used to camp on the far side of the field all the time, also would shoot using creek as a berm. One day I decide I want to go camping. Bike out there with my .22, a box of ammo and normal camping kit. Super excited, shoot like 200 rounds at cans and shit from the trash hole nearby. In the 60s someone lived on the property in a trailer and threw trash in this sinkhole type thing. Started getting dark, built a fire and busted out the harmonica to practice. One was terrible at it, but it kept my mind busy whilst relaxed. Suddenly something isn't right, I feel like I'm being watched. Hair on neck is raised, heart elevated. My mind starts racing, imagining things unseen out there. Clutching rifle and flashlight scanning the field and trees for movement, shadows playing tricks on my mind, and I'm shitting bricks. Moonless night, god damn it, I want to go home now. Wish I'd brought a tent at least to hide inside. It was summer in Texas and was too hot, but I wanted that security now. Started building fire bigger. Made a torch of sorts with a stick and a torn up t-shirt I'd brought along with thoughts of making some sort of camouflage for my rifle. Darkness is giving up no secrets, but I can definitely hear something out there walking around. Didn't want to shoot because sometimes cows wander onto the property. Fuck. I never wanted this. JPG. Maybe coyotes, they're common out here. But no, not in this particular area. Too many farmers and rednecks hunt them, they avoid it. Jesus Christ, I think I hear breathing. It's kind of circling me, getting closer. Pissing pants by this point, wishing I had something big bore. This was before cell phones were inexpensive, I didn't have one. Just told my parents I was going camping, and where. Great, so they'll just find my grisly remnants tomorrow morning, after I don't come home. Sweating buckets and running out of wood, fire dying. Contemplating running for it, but the woodsman in me wouldn't leave the fire, it was too dry out there. Suddenly I hear a deep echoing bark from kind of far off. The thing circling me stops for a second. A long pause, and then another bark, closer, and the thing takes off in the direction away from me and the bark. An enormous white fluffy dog comes trotting out of the tree line. Super friendly, has a collar on that says Snowman. Snowman, and I chill out for a few hours, only once he turns his head, perks his ears and growls, half barks, and then goes back to normal. Feel totally safe with Snowman there. Eventually fall asleep with the big lug next to me, hot as hell, but who gives a fuck. Next morning Snowman is gone, figure he went home after the thing buggered off for good. Go home and scrape the brick dust out of my boxers. Next day. Talking to property owner. Tell him of that night, confirm no cows were out there. Mention Snowman. He looks at me like I'm an asshole. Snowman was my dog, he was killed by a car last year. I wot hard and tell him I was serious, Snowman was real, I petted him and got covered in his white hair and everything, and he saved my skin from whatever out there wanted my nutsack for a coin purse. He doesn't believe me until I dig the shirt out of the wash and show him the hair all over it. He says it looks just like Snowman's. Every now and then I hear a bark off in the distance whilst camping there and feel warm inside. It's been happening for the past couple of months. The tapping, I mean. Every night, just as I'm about to drift off to sleep. There's the tapping. At the front door of my house, there's a small little glass window. You know, the kinds that don't serve any purpose because you can't actually see through them? It's one of those. Every night there's 3 or 4 taps at that window. The first night it happened I played it off as nothing. The second night I checked. Nothing was behind the window. The third night I opened the door and no one was there. Only 2 bare footprints which disappeared the next day. The fourth night I called the police and they found nothing but the pair of footprints right outside my door. The first week turned into the second and I started getting scared. I bought a gun, I bought locks. A guard dog, and I had already gotten started on a fence in my front yard. But the tapping continued despite my security. Eventually I stopped even responding. Nothing was there but a pair of footprints. Right? All it does is tap, right? Nothing more, right? So I got used to it. It became a routine thing. Go to my room, lay on the bed, tap. Tap, tap, go to sleep. Then things began to get worrying. I would wake up and the locks lining the side of the front door would all be opened. My pistol mysteriously disappeared without a trace. The dog ran away. The fence was just gone. It was mocking me. Telling me that I'm never safe. No matter what I do. So I got tired of it. So many sleepless nights were experienced during this whole ordeal. I wanted to at least trick this thing into thinking I wasn't scared of it. So when the tapping came one night, I simply got up, opened the door, and wiped away the footprints as a mocking gesture. You could say I was challenging it. And I felt good about it. I felt like I'd finally defeated the thing. I felt safe from it. It was over, right? Right? Then the next night came, and the tapping came with it. I was seething with anger. I was more irritated by its persistence than I was afraid of the possible threat. But then my blood turned cold when I heard it. The sound of the front door opening. You know those bombs the US dropped on Japan? The uranium for them was mined in Canada, in a mine on the shores of a lake in the Northwest Territories. The mining operation completely poisoned the surrounding land, and the Indian population who lives there has to deal with cancer and all sorts of diseases from the radioactive tailings. Anyway, there's an old legend that before European contact a party of Indians were rowing across the lake on their canoes. Suddenly on the shore they saw a strange village that wasn't supposed to be there, filled with many strange people. The next instant the village was on fire and all the people were burning. Then the vision was gone as quickly as it had appeared, but they passed down the story over the generations. They'd seen the vision at the future site of the uranium mine. Hunting with a buddy. We both went up on a ridge to make camp. I think the ridge is actually called Black Hills Ridge. We sat there and made a campfire, watching the surrounding areas. Suddenly, about 1 mile away, a flare pops off. We watch it fly up slowly and float for a minute as it illuminated in an orange. About 750 yards away, a green one flies up. We watch this, perplexed. About 200 meters in front of us, a white flare goes up, followed by a yellow. We yelled down to where it was, asking if they needed help. No response. So we popped a green flare. We carry them all the time. A lot of people do around here. The flares fall. And then something freaked us out. We heard a whizzing sound. And some rocks exploded. We fell to behind an overhand and waited all night in security shifts. In the morning, we went to the flare positions. In one, we found 12 spent casings of .270 and one in 45 ACP. In another a fire pit and rucksack. In the third, one single magazine from what I assume was a PSL and no casings. The third was only a fire and the spent case from the flare. I think that some people were hunting one another. I think player 4 won. I found nothing indicating he lost or won. But I'm assuming he actually used a bow, as I found only 3 ammunition types. Human hunters are people whom gather in groups and hunt one another. The largest I have ever heard of was 42 people in 7 teams. Apparently, 34 people died. They use flares to designate the start. And, sadly, the flare colors they use were colors for lost, orange, medical attention needed, red, fire warning, yellow, and a response, green. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe.